And then I am going to share my screen so you can see my presentation for today. Hang on just a second. My team, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see the presentation? That would be helpful.
Yep, it's all good.
Yep.
Great, thank you. Okay, so as I said, and I'm going to do this again since we're recording for YouTube, welcome. My name is Laura Cameron, and I am the Director of Operations at Stitchcraft Marketing. These are our office hours. We try and do these once a month. And the format we usually take is we make a short presentation on a topic that we think is important, and then we open it up for questions and answers. You can ask us questions about anything you've seen here today, or it doesn't have to be related. This is sort of a time for us to dispense a little free advice if you're looking for it, and you can also talk to your colleagues on the call. We've had some really nice discussions. So let's talk about 2022 craft trends. At the beginning of every year, we always take a look at what we see happening sort of in the larger crafting world. And we are getting ready for H&H Americas this summer, which is a new industry trade show. Well, it's a show with a storied past in Europe. This is the first time they're bringing it to America. And so I'm sure we are going to be seeing lots of new craft trends there. But we have already sort of put our ear to the ground or been spending a lot of time on Pinterest and blogs and finding out what we think the craft trends are for this year. This material is also in a blog post that you can refer back to if you'd like to. And that includes a lot more links to the examples that we are talking about and showing and sharing today. And just so you know, we do produce new blog posts twice a month, usually right around the 1st and 15th of the month. And so that is free information that is free for you as our guests. So basically what we have found in 2020 is at-home crafting continues. We're going to see lots of things that are carryovers from last year, but lots of new and interesting things. And we're also seeing more communal activities, both as people get back together in person and also as they continue to craft in virtual communities that they have created during the pandemic. Obviously, makers are continuing to pursue crafts learned during the pandemic. We had lots of crafters flock to us during the pandemic, finding things that they wanted to do at home. Crafters remain inspired by mending methods, sort of making do and reusing and, excuse me, eliminating waste. Crafting has really returned as a process that is slow and steady and mindful, and something that has been calming in the world's uncertain state, no matter whether what precisely that is. We found that a lot of crafts focusing on modularity and or using scraps or prolonging the usefulness, again, remain popular. Modular because they're portable, they can be worked on in pieces and then grow into a larger project. And again, making do and reusing and mending. So many of us still remain at home quite a bit, although we are starting to get back out there. But I think we can also foresee that there will be times in the not too distant future where we will probably sort of in waves be spending time at home. And crafters have devised new social communities and ways to engage in social communal crafting. And we think we're going to see that continue. So the first part of this we're calling sort of time keeps on stitching, which is things that we've already seen in previous years, but we still see them quite a bit. And that is a touch of embroidery. We're finding that adding a little embroidery to other crafts is more popular than ever. There are tons of designers looking at embroidering knitted fabric. We're also seeing lots of embroidery and applique in quilting. We can see that it's super popular on TikTok. If you're looking for hashtags, you're getting millions and millions of views and lots of tutorials and techniques. We're seeing lots of online courses for teaching people how to add a little bit of embroidery to knitted or sewn fabrics, like I said. And we're seeing a lot of kits focused on simple designs with small bits of embroidery floss. I actually just finished a kit from one of our clients that I'm reviewing, and it was a beautiful little embroidery kit, a botanical print, and it included everything I needed in the kit, literally, except for a pair of scissors to snip the threads. Everything from needles, embroidery floss, the hoop, felt backing to finish it. So we're seeing lots of little kits and people dabbling in new crafts. And that might be something if you are either a sewing store or if you are a knitting store, it might be something you might be interested in, stocking some of these kind of ready-made kits, which are fun, portable, easy projects for crafters who are new into the craft to get into and learn some simple techniques. So the second trend is visible mending, as we talked about, and we have seen a ton recently with this little speed weave, and visible mending and a reluctance to be wasteful about clothing persists. And visible mending, again, is hugely popular on TikTok and on Instagram, and I will also add there's tons that comes up on Pinterest, and there are a few experts in the industry that I see come up quite a bit. And then, like I talked about, these speed weave style mending looms and mending kits are becoming increasingly popular. People are really liking, patching jeans and other clothing, mending holes in woolen garments, those kinds of things by adding small touches of embroidery. It's a way to personalize your clothing and lets you add sort of a unique touch as well as prolonging the life of the garment itself. So the next trend in Time Keeps on Stitchin is sewing by hand. We are definitely seeing a return to a continuation and return to sewing by hand as a meditation practice. And of course, English paper piecing has never really gone out of style, but it is definitely enjoying a resurgence. We're seeing people sort of skip the sewing machine and go to small projects that can be done by hand. Again, these are sort of thoughtful, detail-oriented crafting. It's modular, like we have talked about. You're building lots of little pieces that you can sew together later. It's relatively inexpensive because you are using up scraps and other items of leftover fabric and potentially paper and a needle and thread, but you're not going out and buying large quantities of anything for this project. And like I said, English paper piecing has become popular again. They've got portability and flexibility. There's lots of activity on Instagram and TikTok. It really is something that is easy to do and get into. And I will add that there are definitely knitting equivalents. There was the Beekeeper's Quilt by Tiny Owl Knits that came out quite a bit ago. And actually there are a bunch of interesting knits sort of inspired by sewing and quilting techniques. I know Tanis Lavely of Tanis Fiber Arts has a pattern out. It's basically a flying geese quilt, but I know that we've actually seen quite a few others in addition to a bunch more modular projects come out. So new for 22, what's new and exciting? We see a lot of granny square fashion and design. I realize granny squares are old hat to a lot of us who have been in the knitting and crochet industry for a while, but they are actually becoming popular on the runway and in home decor for 2022. Also recently, Target enjoyed some viral press. I won't say whether that's good or bad. They enjoyed viral press about a granny square cardigan that sold at Target. And there was a discussion in the crafting industry about how crochet can't really be mechanized the way knitting can be, and that all of that work pretty much has to be done by hand. And so getting a fast fashion garment at a place like Target, where you're spending very little for it, is really not fair compensation for the work that it requires. Granny Square has a ton of views on TikTok. I'm sure there are also many as well on Instagram. Tutorials are becoming increasingly popular on TikTok, so we're sort of appealing to a broader audience of crafters. So that is definitely a trend. Also new for 22, I know there has been some resurgence in this, but paper crafts. Again, this is accessible. It is really inexpensive. You just need some paper at home, and it doesn't even need to be really fancy paper. You need paper and a few cutting and drawing tools, and you are ready to go. Paper flowers in particular have grown, and we also see this as an extension of sort of being environmentally conscious, potentially not wanting to cut actual flowers, and also your paper flowers will last as long as you want them to. The pandemic also marked a return to letters over email. We saw lots of people making cards and writing letters and sending snail mail, yay for the post office. And so we've seen lots of paper crafts. We've also seen sort of a mixing of crafts where you might embroider on paper or include knitting or some fabric or putting together, kind of a multi-craftual experience, multimedia experience. Again, crafting with paper is slow, meticulous, thoughtful, inexpensive. I would also add modular and flexible. You can take it anywhere you go. All you need to do is take your paper, maybe your scissors or an X-Acto blade, and a pencil and a ruler, and you are pretty much set to go. So there's lots of activity on Instagram and TikTok. So you can see that everyone is very into making and sharing paper crafts. Moving right along, Terrazzo. Terrazzo actually fits in with the resin pouring crafting from previous years. It includes taking all kinds of little bits of tile or ceramics or other things. Again, taking your trash and reusing it and pouring it into resin to make home goods like trays and mugs and things like jewelry that you can wear. Terrazzo incorporates, like I said, broken elements of glass, stone, marble, all kinds of things. And it is becoming increasingly popular on TikTok and Instagram. Again, you can get the resin materials at any big box crafting store. All you need are some molds, and then you can just take and incorporate materials you already have at home. Or if you've done any bathroom demo recently, you'll have bits of tile. You can use all kinds of things. Also new for 2022 is tufting. Now, this one is, it is based on the popularity of punch needling, which we have seen growing in the last few years. This craft is slightly less accessible because it requires a tufting gun, which can be expensive. So I will say that the barrier entry is a little high, but again, we are seeing punch needle kits and also all kinds of smaller options for people who are looking to dabble in the craft. And of course, for anyone who is a crafter, you have a yarn stash, so you can use up bits of leftover yarn, or you can purchase new yarn, whatever you would like to create various things. So tufting is really cool. I liked watching this video, and Etsy is reporting that demand for tufted textiles and punch needle kits continues to grow. And I saw tons of it last year, and I have seen lots of it on Instagram as well. So lots of popularity, again, using some of the same tools and materials, but using it to create in different ways. So finally, macrame. And as Franklin Habit would say, Franklin Habit really wishes macrame would just die, but it is never going to die. It's just going to grow and become better. So we are seeing a resurgence of macrame, of course, but we are also seeing it in sort of some new phases. People are exploring knotted thread jewelry. Now, of course, if you were a child of the 80s, you made a lot of friendship bracelets, but also some really new and exciting looking jewelry, clothing, accessories. We're also seeing macro weaving. So we're seeing a combination of knotwork and weaving in things like small wall hangings. And I know that a lot of yarn stores have sort of expanded into making not necessarily wall hangings, but making small small wall hangings. In my local yarn store has a bunch of classes on learning to weave. And macrame has tons of views on TikTok and of course tons on Instagram as well. So that's kind of where we're drawing our inspiration from. So finally, what I talked about before is social crafting. In the pandemic, we tried to build up the ways that we crafted together. And so this has been an iterative process. And 2022, we've really seen an explosion of sort of a continuation of creating virtual communities for crafting. The fun thing about virtual communities is that they are accessible to anyone basically who has a computer and internet and access to some crafting supplies. And I realize that that definitely is a privilege, but it also makes it accessible to people who were previously homebound, or it grows your potential market reach and also the diversity of crafters you're bringing to the table. We've talked about how virtual crafting communities can be international, so you can have people from different cultures and different places in the world all participating together. And we might not have a chance to meet each other if the only way that we could meet is in person, because travel expenses are prohibitive for a lot of that. We are using sort of the Year of Gnomes as our example here. Sarah Shira, who owns Imagine Landscapes, and she crafts beautiful gnomes, and she has basically started a year craft along where you can make gnomes, and any month in which you make a gnome, and you can drop in or you can make gnomes all 12 months, or you can just drop in for a month or two or not. Any month you make gnomes, you can be entered to win prizes. So it's just kind of a way to invigorate her online community and get them working together. And so crafters are trying to meet in person when they can, but as I said at the beginning of the presentation, we do think there are going to be time periods in the not so distant future where we may still need to be at home. We'll probably kind of go in waves, and it's nice that we have created these communities and continued to keep them going. And as business owners, if you have built your online community during the pandemic, it's really important that you keep some of your offerings available to these crafters, because they may not be able to attend in person, they may not be comfortable doing that yet, they may not have access to do that, and so allowing them to remain part of your virtual community really encourages them to stay engaged with your business. So that is, crafters are hosting get-togethers everywhere pretty much: Zoom, Instagram Live, Facebook Live, you know, all kinds of places. So that is sort of what we have for you today. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so that we can answer some questions if you have any. That was a little bit of what we pulled together and what we're seeing. And does anyone have any questions for us, or want to discuss any of the trends? I will say that was by no means exhaustive. Those were just sort of the top things that we identified. Okay. Well, that is fine. I'll give you one more chance to get your questions in, and I will let you know that our next session is going to be on, I believe, April 19th. Let me pull my, notes back up. Our next session is going to be on April 19th. And this is a presentation that we actually have put together. It will have an accompanying blog article, but it is called Rethinking and Reimagining Your Offerings in an Ever-Changing Environment. We were asked to put this topic together basically as a way to think about what's coming in the next couple of years. And the answer is that we don't entirely know. But and if we said we did, we'd be lying, so we're not going to. But we tried to think about some of the ways that your business can be resilient and how you can think about offering new products, what lessons we have learned from the last 2 years, and sort of how we can take those and use those to adapt and change and pivot as necessary in the future. I mean, I don't think we're going to get away from a lot of our traditional crafting methods, but much like we had to develop virtual communities, there may be other things that we can do in the future to sort of address things as they change. So we are here. I'll stick around for another couple minutes. If anyone wants to chat, you can ask questions about the presentation, but it doesn't have to be presentation related. You can ask us your best marketing questions and we'll try and come up with answers for you. And otherwise, I will just thank you for spending some time with us. We enjoy seeing you. And if you ever have a topic you would like us to cover, please reach out. I will put my email in the chat window, but you are always welcome to reach out to us and let us know what is a question that's been bothering you, because I can tell you right now that if it's something that you're thinking about, it's probably something a lot of your peers are thinking about, and we would be happy to build content to address that. So. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we will see you next month. Bye.